The milk scandal that shocked the world. Nestlé controversy. To imagine a world where your morning coffee brand is the same entity behind the controversy that nearly upended its reputation. It sounds like a plot twist from an overambitious screenplay, doesn't it? But welcome to the real world, where Nestlé, the Swiss giant, found its hands not just in your coffee, but in a scandal that remains a hot topic. No pun intended. Nestlé, a name synonymous with, well, almost everything edible. From the chocolatey recesses of a Kit Kat bar to the crisp, refreshing bottled waters, Nestlé Omnipresence had reached millions across continents. Founded in 1866, this multinational Swiss company swiftly rose to become the familiar and comforting face on many of our grocery shelves. As the self-proclaimed world's largest food and beverage company, the sun literally never set on its empire. Their breakthrough came when they introduced infant formula products to these untapped markets. For instance, in Indonesia, sales reports by 1976 indicated a whopping 400% growth in just 2 years. Talk about hitting the jackpot. The rationale is to feed the urban myths about the superiority of Western products and let human nature do the rest. The company's triumph wasn't limited to just sales. Its cultural impact was palpable. Nestlé wasn't selling just a product. It was selling an idea, a dream, a sophisticated lifestyle. And the aspirational middle class in countries like India, Nigeria, and Brazil were buying it. Not by the gram, but by the kilogram. Amina, a mother from Uganda, like countless other mothers, believed in progress. And that's more indicative of progress than packaged, powdered milk from the almighty West, in which others believed. They did. Nestlé wasn't alone, of course, but they were the undeniable giants, the zenith of marketing prowess. They looked at local infant nutrition brands like a cat eyeing a canary. By 1978, through a masterstroke of aggressive marketing and perhaps a sprinkling of audacity, Nestlé owned an astonishing 40% of the formula market in several developing countries. Pedro, our store owner from Brazil, can testify. He saw firsthand how Nestlé's representatives, with their polished shoes and flashy brochures, made their rounds. They paraded formula milk as though it were liquid gold, a magical elixir that transcended mere nutrition. They did such a fantastic job that even some physicians were under their spell. Collaboration, more like enchantment. By the end of the 70s, Nestlé was like the popular kid in school everyone wanted to befriend, or at least feed their kids what they were selling. In the infant formula sector in countries like Pakistan, Nestlé commanded an astounding 70% market share by 1979. Compared to local brands, many of which were floundering to retain a mere 5 to 10% market share, Nestlé was the titan. A notable charm offensive was the distribution of free samples. Hospitals, those trusted bastions of health and well-being, were not exempt from this strategy. New mothers, exhausted and impressionable, were presented with the gift of Nestlé formula. If Nestlé was the ship sailing full steam ahead, buoyed by its own achievements, then the dawning of the 80s was the proverbial iceberg lurking beneath the waters, waiting to make its presence felt. But a drama, no matter how well scripted, must have its conflict. And the problems began when health reports emerged. Health workers began noticing patterns. Infants who were formula-fed seemed more prone to malnutrition and diseases. For many mothers in these countries, Nestlé's product required clean water, which was scarce. And the result? A concoction that was more harmful than nutritious. By 1981, NGOs like the Infant Formula Action Coalition or, in fact, began catching wind of these isolated reports. The narrative wasn't just confined to India. Similar stories were emerging from Latin America, Africa, and parts of Southeast Asia. A pattern was forming, and its epicenter seemed to be those gleaming tins of Nestlé formula. The big revelation exploded in the public domain with the publication of the pamphlet, Nestlé Kills Babies. Yes, you heard that right. This wasn't just about misleading marketing. It had grave implications. The pamphlet, backed by data from grassroots health workers, pointed at Nestlé's aggressive marketing strategies, including their collaboration with local doctors, as a significant cause of the declining rate of breastfeeding and subsequent health issues in babies. The weight of the evidence was undeniable, and it prompted a thorough investigation. Organizations like WHO and UNICEF took note, with the latter commissioning an in-depth report into the effects of formula in developing nations. This wasn't a small-scale inquiry. Over 50 countries were under the scanner. As the investigation progressed, certain damning details emerged. In many regions, mothers diluted the expensive formula to make it last longer, unwittingly depriving their infants of necessary nutrients. In places with no access to clean water, formula became a death sentence. Introducing waterborne diseases to vulnerable infants. Nestlé's free samples in maternity wards played their part too. Once the sample ran out, mothers, now having issues with natural lactation, felt compelled to buy the formula despite its cost. The legal consequences were swift and numerous. The World Health Assembly adopted the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes in 1981. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. This was a solid, resounding thump on Nestlé's corporate knuckles. But the real courtroom drama began with the multiple class action lawsuits. In Uganda, a case involving over 50 families sought hefty compensations. Whispers of boardroom coups and emergency meetings became the stuff of corporate legend. Senior execs, once the champions of the formula strategy, were now scrambling to distance themselves. Now, every scandal has its price tag. For Nestlé, the financial impact was no short change from a pocket. By mid-1981, reports indicated that Nestlé faced losses nearing $400 million globally due to the dip in infant formula sales. The company's annual report read more like a cry for help, with phrases like unprecedented challenges and strategic reassessments making notable appearances. Now, for Nestlé, reclaiming a legacy that spanned over a century wasn't just about salvaging a brand. It was a comprehensive review of their advertising strategies. Gone were the misleading ads, and in came a series of campaigns promoting breastfeeding as the primary source of nutrition, alongside formula as a secondary option. They partnered with global health organizations to provide educational resources. But what's a redemption arc without numbers? Nestlé pledged a whopping $50 million for research to improve their baby formula's nutritional value, ensuring it was safe and beneficial. Another $30 million went into community projects in the hardest-hit areas, focusing on clean water and sanitation. For the world at large, the scandal was a watershed moment in corporate accountability. It wasn't just about baby formula. It was a manifestation of unchecked corporate power clashing with ethical responsibility. The result was a more vigilant consumer base and corporations that, hopefully, think twice before prioritizing profit over people. On the brighter side, the scandal bolstered global movements pushing for corporate transparency and responsibility. Regulations became tighter, watchdog organizations stronger, and the public more aware. Perhaps Nestle's biggest legacy from the scandal was fostering a more conscious global community. So, as we close this chapter on one of the most significant corporate scandals of the 20th century, one can't help but reflect. Nestle's story serves as a chilling reminder of how easily giants can falter, how public perception can shift, and how, sometimes, redemption is a luxury, not a guarantee.